have started recording. Hi all, this is Devin Galladay of the Mystical Solution to Modern Love. Thank you so much for being here, whether you are live or you are finding us for the first time, or whether you are familiar with devingalladay.com. If you are not, I have put down sort of like a join us logo here that you can click. It's basically Devin Galladay, my name. You can find it like right here at the dot. Yeah, right there. devingalladay.com and download your free matter of fact, I suggested for both men and women, but it was specifically written for women. Women are smarter than men, and it's about love, and it's about being marriage-minded, and it's about some fun stuff about how to have the kind of relationship that you are looking for. So again, if you're finding us for the first time, check out, there it is, right on top of my finger, devingalladay.com. If you are hearing us on a podcast, that's DEVINGALAUDET. Yeah, trust me, nobody ever gets that right. I still get mail for somebody named Derwin Glanders on a regular basis. So anyway, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. We've got a couple things in store for you. One is going to be a little bit complicated, and one is really, really easy. Anyway, I'm picking up Morgana shortly, so just a little bit of news first. I'm picking up Morgana. I'm going to be setting some dates for a new class that's going to be coming up. I'll announce that specifically next week, which is going to be exciting. Picking up my wife shortly after, we'll finally actually get to spend a couple days together after getting married, and then me running from Bali so I could be back home. Anyway, what we're doing today is we are focusing on the 5 love and relationship savers. This is after we did a 5-week series about the stuff that ruin our relationships. Now we're going to talk about the stuff that is really critical to have within a relationship. I'm not going to talk about it real long because I kind of want to get into the juicy Kabbalah stuff, which is to me far more interesting and useful. So the 5 love and relationship savers, we're on week 4 of 5, so we're almost done with this series. It has been fun, but I kind of know where we're moving now, and so I'm itching to get moving with that. So this week we're talking about communication, and the important thing that we want to understand about communication is this is where the vast majority of our problems within a relationship start, because we don't communicate, we don't see where we're connecting, and so sometimes we don't. And frequently the issue is there's just a difference between men and women, as we have talked about before. One of the things and one of the reasons why I say women are smarter than men, as we talked about last week, was this idea of Binah, who births the concepts of all things. Totally rad, totally feminine. And so, if you'll notice, we have on the Tree of Life here, we have these 10 spheres. These top 3 are of God. I would argue the top 2, Kether and Hokmah, are dealing with ideas that are much more about unity and really androgynous. And so Binah is really the first time that I believe that we deal with sort of like a specific gender, because it manifests from Binah, and the concept of having gender, specific gender, would again come from Binah. So this female idea is really one of the only that are part of the supernals that deal with and are of sort of like the highest form of the divine. So anyway, so communication is really important, but so women are kind of up here and down here at the same time, and men are somewhere jumbled in the middle, really not quite connected to earth or the divine. They're somewhere in the middle, and that's why men and women fit together to make things manifest and kind of create, for lack of a better description, a lightning strike that comes down the tree in order to allow things to manifest. I know that's some big, scary concepts. But the important thing to understand is that men and women don't communicate in the same ways. Now, I've done some other work where we get into details on this, but the important thing when we talked about sort of like our first week on the love and relationship savers, we just talked about slowing down. Part of the slowing down in communication is to not assume the other person understands everything that you say. You know, one of the things that I point out in the ebook, Women Are Smarter Than Men, is that, you know, we are lovable and we're funny and we're good guys and we're here to sort of like try to be your hero as best we can, but we are not on the same level as women are. You speak on a higher level of communication, you're better at it. We're not. So I would suggest for women who are looking to communicate with men, and again, I have a lot more details on this in general in other sources, but for this little small confine of this particular show, when you slow down, that means don't assume that men understand you in the same way that other women do. There's a lot more unspokenness going on with women that you guys are all over and understand. And for us, we're like, we're trying, but, you know, we're not quite there. So that means when you slow down, you have to be mindful of the fact, you don't have to treat us like morons, but it's important for you to slow down enough to confirm that A, you have clearly articulated what it is that you need. Like you need to say, I need this. And then we understand. And then we can say, you know, men will say yes or no based on that. But if you are kind of leaving a trail of breadcrumbs for us, we probably didn't follow it. Even though all of your lady friends say that that we should have followed it, we didn't. And it's not personal and it's not anything. It's just part of the way that we are made. And this is one of the beauties of Kabbalah. It explains why we're different. It explains how we're different. It explains about how we can and should connect. But one of the ways when we're sort of like having an instant reaction to things that happen in our daily lives and we don't communicate effectively and we assume the other person should, we're probably missing out. The opposite is sort of true for men. Our direct communication can sometimes be very off-putting to women because it kind of feels aggressive, but that's what we do. So that means when we slow down, we have to recognize that the person that we're communicating with is the person that we love. That when we're communicating with our better half, we are talking about the love that we want to give for them, to them. So either case, slow down. This is sort of like an addendum to the 5 love savers, and so I'm wishing you guys love. But before that, we're going to talk a little Kabbalah. We've been moving down the tree of life, and we're getting to an interesting place. And it's going to get, you know, I'm going to need to slow down, in fact. But what we're getting to is Hesed. And so again, you know, all of these, each one of these spheres kind of represents a different component in our sort of human psyche, as it were, and things that we utilize as humans in order to ascend the ladder, to kind of become more attuned to our higher self, better connected to God, or, you know, whatever symbols you want to use for that highest, innermost, super deluxe, external, floating on fluffy clouds being that makes the flowers open and close at dawn and dusk. So we left last week over here in Binah, and we went to this place called Chesed. And Chesed basically means mercy, frequently translated as loving kindness. I'm going to show you on this big board for a reason. So I'm going to, in fact, move my whole face right out of here. And this big board where Hesed is, you're going to see something interesting on this tree that you do not see on the tree that I usually hold in my hand, which is a model. This blue sphere, Hesed, if you notice the top sphere up here, where Binah is, Binah doesn't have a direct path to Hesed. This tree, by the way, that we're looking on is the Kirker version of the tree of life. It still has 22 paths, it still has 10 spheres, but there are some differences to it. You will notice that the top triangle, which is the stuff that's related to the divine, is pointing up. You will find the following two triangles are actually pointing downwards. The ones that are pointing downwards are typically more of like, this is sort of like the human experience, where the ones pointing up are sort of like more aspirational, really, could be debated and argued whether or not we ever get to know these top three. But the point is that separation, that lack of a path between the dark indigo sphere and the blue sphere, from Binah to Hesed, is basically what occultists like to call the abyss. The abyss is very, very cool, but really what it kind of goes into is the notion that man has fallen from the divine. There is a separation, there is a chasm that we really can't quite meet. And so, yes, and I swear we're going to talk about Hesed in a minute, but before I want to lay some groundwork of why it makes it some interesting. This variation of the tree, this one again, here's our Binah, and if you'll notice there is a yellow sphere here, known as Tefereth, that separates Hesed and Binah, and there's direct paths to both. Here the triangles are sort of like all pointing up, and these are very subtle differences because again it's sort of the same colors, it's the same structure more or less with some slight variations, but this one doesn't have sort of like this chasm between us and the divine. There's some downsides to this tree that I just showed you as well. We'll save that for a later date, but the important thing to understand here is that the Gra tree focuses on everything going up. There is a certain inherent limitation that is built into this tree, and so it's important to understand that, and I'm going to go back to my model, is that, remember when we talked about Kether, we were talking about the notion of sort of like the acorn that hasn't been planted. In other words, it contains the code for everything, but it's not in an active state. This one is in an active state and sort of represents all potential and wisdom and things that are hard to grasp and hold on to. And then Binah deals with this idea of birthing concepts and ideas of multiplicity and ideas that are sort of created, like it's in a creative standpoint. So when things manifest, it goes through a whole process and ultimately comes true here. So you can have a concept of the table here, but the concept of the table and the manifestation are actually different things. So when we move from Binah to Hesed, it's sort of like going from this idea where we've received everything and we are now channeling that everything to Hesed. Hesed is just like Chokmah that wants to just give, give, give. The difference is that when Kether is giving, it is the pure abundance of perfection and there's no downside to it. It's all love because it's all one cosmic soup of God and divinity and perfection and love. But when we get here, this is after, as we were talking about last week, the Dark Mother manifests, things like limitation and death and sadness and other things that we may not want to receive. So in much the same way, Chokmah just wants to give freely, in part because it can, there's no reason not to. In Hesed, it receives and then still kind of wants to give, but sometimes its giving isn't required. So when we talk about mercy, like mercy is a great concept. We want to support each other and love each other, and at the same time we want to understand that the limitations of Hesed is that it wants to keep giving even though its giving stuff may be negative to the person receiving it, or even for us for giving it. So what I like to look at this is that, when I was talking about this in sort of like writing about this, I was talking about this is where abundance is a dud. Hesed is sort of connected to the idea of Jupiter, the biggest planet, the most abundant planet, that's the way it comes across in sort of like astrological terms. Abundance is a great and wonderful thing, but we have to understand as we get this great and wonderful stuff, we have to decide whether or not it's appropriate to give this great and wonderful stuff. Hesed tends to not care, so it'll give you all of the stuff, and it allows us to make choices. So understand the downside of having mercy is sometimes we need a kick in the pants to move forward. Sometimes we need change. That means we don't want to necessarily lessen what we give. We just want to temper it to some degree with an amount of consciousness. Why do you care? Because you're going to be in a relationship, and sometimes you have to have difficult conversations with the person that you love. So when you are freely giving, like an abundance idea would be in a relationship to say, I am going to be brutally honest. I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I'm going to give you all that I have. Isn't that wonderful? For whom? I'm not sure. So the idea is, if you're going to give, if you have to deal with scarier or more difficult subjects, you probably want to start including a little gevura, but not too much. So it's somewhere in the middle where you want to, in your relationships, like in practical ways, that when you have to have hard conversations, that you come from a place that you want to be of loving kindness and you want to be of support, but you don't necessarily have to or want to turn on the fire hose completely. This means you want to be able to temper it, you want to be able to be honest without having sort of like the brutality that's now coming from Binah and rearranging through Hesed. So remember, Hesed gives, but sometimes it gives a little too much or perhaps in the wrong way. So breathe. These are concepts that you get to take home and try to manifest in your daily life. So when you do, and when you are thinking of Hesed, think of giving absolutely freely, and when there are times that it becomes things are a little bit more tough, or you have to have serious or hard conversations, that you get to slow down again and recognize that the full brunt of the fire hose directly in somebody's face may be more than what they can or are wanting to bear, even though it's honest. So to recap, we are not going to be mind reading in communication. We are going to be upfront and try to recognize that the person that we are giving to or exchanging ideas with, even when they're heated, even when there's a frank exchange of ideas, we want to be able to recognize the person we are exchanging with as somebody that we love. When we're talking about Hesed, we have similar ideas going on that deal with abundance, but it's the sort of unfettered abundance is the thing that we don't want to do, like in a magical way or in a way when we talk about things like abundance, everybody gets excited. Oh, great, it's going to be the universe opening up for me. But, there's sometimes negative consequences to that idea. So don't think of things in terms of pure abundance over here in Hesed. Think of it as a responsibility that when we get all this power, that there has to be sort of like a give and take, a decision process that's going on that you are responsible for. So anyway, again, practical terms, be honest, but it doesn't have to be the full brunt. Anyway, I think that's what I got for this week. It's been a wonderful 18 minutes spent with you, and I will look forward to next week, which is going to be our last week of the 5 love and relationship savers, and I hope to see you soon. Oh wait, I almost forgot. What we want as well, front and back, is that right down here, I'm going to be putting in a banner that says devingallaudet.com. Go to Devin Gallaudet. If you haven't gotten my free ebook, please do so. I'm coming out with a new ebook specifically about love and relationships and Kabbalah. I want you to join up so you will know about that. Click right there, Devin Gallaudet. You can see above as well as below. And join me to learn more about the mystic solutions to modern love so you can get the love life that you want. And to be quite honest with you, it's like I want to scream from the rooftop because I have exactly that. So please join me, devingallaudet.com, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Thanks so much.